Hello, author Kelly Van Nelson. Thank you for joining me today on this celebration on World Book Day. We get to hang out on World Book Day. How cool is that?
It's amazing, and thank you for having me. Always beautiful to talk to you.
It is. Every time we catch up, we go, why have we not done this sooner? It always seems so long, but it's so wonderful. I love being on your author journey, and it all began with a little book called Graffiti Lane.
It did.
Can you share with us how that happened? And it was like aha moments, and then how Graffiti Lane has kind of propelled your writing career, hasn't it?
Yeah, Graffiti Lane is a funny story. So I have always been writing novels and short stories and different fiction pieces. And to break up the sort of writing of those larger pieces, I was writing all of these little poems. I call them little poems. I was typing them on my phone and writing them in notebooks and typing them in taxis and while I was traveling, and not really thinking about publishing them, but it was just stress relief. And I was using all of these smaller windows of time to just write something creative. And I ended up, it was at the West, we were just chatting, it was at the West Coast Book Festival. I ended up chatting to yourself, Karen, around the novel and other pieces of work and a short story you were publishing of mine in an anthology. And I happened to mention the poems and ended up submitting the manuscript. But it was sort of a funny one, because when I looked at the poems that I actually had hundreds of them sitting there that I'd been just writing over the years, not realizing I actually had that many. And pulling them into a manuscript was sort of interesting because they all had this underlying theme, which is perfect for a collection. And
Yes.
They were all about social issues, about urban life, about resilience in being the underdog but overcoming obstacles. So we pulled them together into this very contemporary modern poetry collection, and brainstormed names and covers and came out with a very well, I think it's cool, but it's my book, so I would say that, but came out with this book called Graffiti Lane. And the sort of graffiti theme came from, I suppose, coming from a working class concrete city background. I love urban life. I look at the extraordinary things in ordinary things, whether it's fluorescent lighting or a playground on concrete or whatever it is. And I often spot graffiti and look at the message that the artist has tried to portray. So not vandalism and just tagging and and wrecking property. That's not what I look at all. It's around real beautiful art that's got a message in there, and it's very creative, and it's sometimes incredibly artistic and wonderful art and expressive art. So I travel to Melbourne a lot normally. Before COVID restrictions, I was constantly in Melbourne. So graffiti sort of became the framework of this collection of poems, and it launched marvelously, and definitely launched my career as an author.
What a year!
Wonderful. Yeah, it's just been an absolute mad year.
It has, and it's I always talk about your authorship in Graffiti Lane as an example of when time and circumstance align, magic happens, because it truly did. Like, you've been on tour around Australia, you've been, on so many podcasts, you've had your Graffiti Lane in gift bags to celebrities. You've, it's amazing what this book itself, there's a book about the book, I swear it, because it's just been just one of those journeys. Do you agree?
Yeah, it just got a massive snowball effect that I wasn't expecting, which was just incredible and exciting and fun. And in the first sort of month, I was really stressing about, a book launch and, organizing
Yes.
events and getting to events around the country, but it was so worth it. And when I settled into the rhythm of it all and just enjoyed it, it became really insane. It took on a life of its own, and it did get really good press coverage, I guess, because it's sort of so accessible to youths and in some of those messages. So it definitely became accessible, and it definitely got me into new audiences, and I think it's just relevant about current issues. Yeah. So it got all this mad airtime, yes, definitely with the celebrity scene, but in press and on TV and all kinds of things as well. It just was amazing.
Yeah, it's so good, so good. And we have another collection coming out. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so I still continue to write the poems, and I have got a new theme that I've been writing to, which is around a broken relationship, and the strain that can come into a relationship, and actually that in fact moving into domestic violence situations in an abusive type scenario. Again, very prevalent current issue right now with COVID happening, and mental health issues and domestic violence on the increase. And I was reading the other day that 40% of police in the US have got domestic violence situations going on, you know, so it's really high, it's really prevalent. And this collection is going to be called Punch and Judy.
Yeah.
After the puppets.
I love the cover. The amazing.
Yeah, the cover is very modern and striking and bold, and yeah, I really love it as well, and great design work on it. Yeah, but it's about a couple. They meet and they are madly, you know, endeared to one another, and then it just sort of starts to become very pressurized very quickly. And Punch and Judy is the whole theme of this particular collection, and again coming out the other side through resilience and breaking free. So I like to show a journey of the harsh, some of these harsh realities to the positive.
Isn't it? It's as if you're just, you know, you kind of see these things coming, because with Graffiti Lane, it was so apt, the timing of that. And even, you know, poetry had started becoming, you know, contemporary poetry started becoming trendy because there was a book hit the New York Times bestseller list, and so it had become more in trend, you know, poetry had. And like even Punch and Judy, you had it planned before any of this corona stuff happened.
Yeah.
You know, and before there was so much talk about you know, domestic violence and things like that, and being on the increase. So have you got a magic ball?
I wish I did. I never saw coronavirus coming, that's for sure.
Yeah,
yeah, you know, it's incredible.
Yeah,
I don't know with the domestic violence situation, like you know, COVID hadn't happened and it wasn't, you know, so much in the press, but yeah, I think, you know, you look at, I don't even know where the idea sort of started from. It just, you know, I sort of wanted to show that not every relationship is perfect, and people have this intense, you know, usually an intense start to a relationship, and then some then work for a lifetime and some don't, and then some go incredibly badly wrong. And there are so many women in difficult situations out there that are at the, you know, that far end of the spectrum where it is very bad and they can't get out, and why are they trapped, and why can't they just walk out and leave? And I sort of, as I was writing about broken relationships, it started evolving into like that really serious side, and it just took on a life of its own, and I got stuck into this theme. And I the idea of Punch and Judy, I had one poem in Graffiti Lane that had a Punch and Judy kind of story to it, just the one, and I really liked it. And I liked this idea of having characters to the relationships. It wasn't just these two people. It wasn't about me. It was like these two characters who were very different, you know, one with a softer side and one very harsh. And I just liked the idea of playing with the two characters.
Isn't it amazing? Because and it's, a lot of people usually write from experience, but this, you know, you are in a very loving relationship, you're not in a domestic, but yet you are called, because you are not afraid. You have really big courage in your writing. You know, you talk about bullying and you confront it and you stand behind, and now you're talking about the domestic violence issue, you know, getting those conversations started through poetry. It's really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I have been married for more than 2 decades, and he's a really great guy. You know, bless him. He's probably people are going to look at him and think this is about you.
I'm just giving
not
you the
about my
opportunity
husband.
to let everyone
absolutely
know.
Not. No, he's really great. But I did in my childhood, I lived in a household that was full of arguments, very serious arguments, and you know, you were bouncing off the walls, and there it was incredibly tough in the childhood at home and at school. And I had more than one stepfather, and my father passed away very young, and it was just fraught with arguments in so many different ways. And you know, they can get serious really quickly, and it's stressful. So you know, some of those things probably creeped in a little bit, but yeah, I definitely created the fictional characters intentionally, because you can take them to all levels, and you can play with them and be more expressive, I think, with bringing different characters in. Yeah, but it definitely worked well. I don't know. I think there's so many women out there need an outlet, and that you can resonate with, who are just stuck and they can't just leave for for many reasons.
It is so, giving of you, because, you are giving the opportunity, and there's a lot of people stepping up now and having the courage to write books that touch on these subjects. I believe Skylar's book coming out with Jennifer's touches on it as well. And these books bring give us opportunities to bring up these conversations and allow people to know they're not alone. And
Yeah.
Skylar just commented here, I'm just going to read it to you. She said, "Hello, hi Kelly, it's great to see you. So looking forward to reading your new book, Kelly. The topics are so close to my heart and are so relevant and so pertinent on a global level.
Yeah, fantastic. And likewise, I will be reading Skylar's book for sure. But
Yes.
it is out there, it's so that people are in all kinds of pressurized situations. And, I definitely wanted to show the resilience piece as well, because women are so strong. And, if you came from a situation like that, and if you can find a pathway out of it, it shows incredible courage and resilience. And I wanted to get that in there too. I write about some dark topics, but I've got an incredibly positive mindset.
You
So
do.
I like to finish usually on a good note of, hey, I can free myself of this, and whatever the situation is, and make a good life for myself. So yeah, I like the positive resilience piece as well.
Yeah, you've got an amazing brain, Kelly, I have to admit. So it's not all about poetry for you. Poetry and publishing poetry is probably what people have come to see and be visible of on the online platforms and things like that. But you've actually written a novel that won some prizes, and has been with an agent for a long time, and has been nearly picked up by some big publishing houses. But I believe that it's you've got a secret to reveal pretty soon on your platforms, which is very exciting.
Yes, it has found a beautiful home, and it's the right home, and the timing is perfect for the novel. It's about just the stars aligning at the right moment in the right place, and it's exciting. But I do love writing novels. I love writing just anything. I don't know. I've definitely penned a couple of novels and love the short story form also. And I love writing the newspaper articles and the magazine thought leader pieces as well, also about current topics, whether it be about my day jobs in the employment market. So I write about employment trends and, redeployment and situations with the problems with unemployment right now, but I love writing also pieces about anti-bullying and around women and leadership and all kinds of things. So I don't know, I just write whatever comes to me.
I can just say that it's the fuel behind it. It's you're on a mission to change the world with your words.
Yeah, exactly. I'm try to play my part in doing a better good.
You do that, but you do it very well. Kelly, tell us about the Pinstripe Prisoner. Tell us about the story, because this interview will go on your page, so we'll be able
to. Perfect. Yeah. So my novel is called The Pinstripe Prisoner, and I actually wrote it when I was living in South Africa. I've lived in South Africa twice. My amazing husband is from Cape Town. And during the time that I lived there, you see a country that you can't really imagine. It's got very unusual history and politics and problems, but and I started writing about a situation with somebody ends up in jail in South Africa in a post-apartheid country that's politically very unstable, and it got a lot of racial tension. And it came in with this sort of crime and a bit of a situation going on, and it sort of evolved as well. I also like to contrast things, so I didn't want this doom and gloom book. I actually wanted to contrast it with the beautiful side of South Africa. When I lived there, I loved it, and it got under the skin, and it's an amazing place. So I played a lot with contrasts of South Africa, and it evolved into this book about a character who becomes quite mentally unstable from a situation that does happen in Cape Town, and ends up with him in jail. And it's something that happens to a very ordinary person. It could happen to any of us, and it winds him up in jail in a very difficult situation. And then he sort of flees and escapes a longer term scenario in jail. But ultimately it's about the character and the resilience of that character, and how he overcomes what's happened, this harrowing situation, and his whole sort of psychological journey. But yeah, it's written in South Africa and in Edinburgh. I lived in Edinburgh as well, and I love both cities. They've both got dark underbellies, and they've both got beautiful sides, and I love them both, and have first-hand experience of them both. And yeah,
resilience is a huge theme in all of your work, isn't
always
it? And so, like in this book, like that would have broke many people. Like you go on the journey, you live this with your characters, and what they've been going through would have broken many people, but their resilience helps them to survive and make their way out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, also the current issues of South Africa in there, and some of the issues I explore, but the issues in prisons. So yeah, I'm not afraid of getting into the taboo topics. Always, that's the fun bit, you know. It's, taboo things no one wants to talk about, and we all know that they happen, and you know, it's trying to get them into the domain to create the conversation, and
Sure. Does anybody have any questions? Please pop them in the chat. There's a few comments there, but I just wanted to also touch on go back to Graffiti Lane, because it's obviously something that's really close to both of our hearts. And so we're actually planning a beautiful coffee book edition of Graffiti Lane, aren't we?
We are, yeah. I have been working on imaging around it, and for the cover, actually, the cover was quite a journey in its own right. I had more than 900 graffiti shots that were taken to get the perfect cover shot for graffiti. And that particular shot is in Hosier Lane in Melbourne, but I've got more than 900 other graffiti shots. And then I've got all these other black and white. I've got a friend who's an amazing he calls himself Punk Black and White, but it's very contemporary images as well. And he is working with me on creating matching some of his photography with the relevant poems to make it much more visual, and to create this beautiful coffee table book. Yes, it's exciting.
It's a pure celebration of the success of this book. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. It excites me so much.
Yeah.
So just reading the comments here. Fantastic news about the novel. Can't wait to hear the official announcement. That's from Karen Wren.
Thank you, Caroline.
Skylar says, wow, the novel sounds like a brilliant read. Well done, Kelly.
Oh, it's very cool. Yeah.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Kelly, we could sit and chat all day, couldn't we? But we've got to go. You've got your day job to go back to. And
yeah, it's pretty busy.
Go back to spending World Book Day and chatting to amazing authors. And thank you to Skylar and Carolyn, who are popping into all of our interviews today. This recording will be on in our event page. So if anybody has any questions for Kelly, please pop them in underneath the recording. Okay, Kelly Van Nelson, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen, and for everybody listening. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.